So, to business. Our first speaker now. We are joined by Sorouch Kheradmand, Global Head of Sustainability at Schneider Electric. And our subject is sustainability at scale, using sustainability as a competitive advantage. A fascinating topic and one I'm very much looking to get into. Sorouch, hi, good morning, how are you?
Good morning, Neil. Great to be here. Very well.
And you had the pleasure of kicking off the show as well. So we've got so much to cover, so I'm going to get straight to it if I can. And I know when I first started working across sustainability events, a question that came up time and time again was about balancing sustainability and profitability. It was always the first hand that went up in the audience. That question seems a little outdated for me now. For you, is the question now more about how big you can make that competitive advantage? Is that a fair way to look at that approach?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here and allowing me to open the show. It's obviously a pleasure to be here. And I think if I take a step back on your question, let's really reflect for a second about, the reality of climate change. Last year is the first year where we went above the 1.5 degrees, right? So it's maybe not systemic, but we are getting closer to 1.5 and to 2 degrees. We are also seeing scarcity in, natural resources. Energy prices are also moving. So you have, let's say, a whole lot of trends, mega trends, that are representing risks for businesses, okay? You also have more and more requirement for compliance. So even with, the election of the current US administration or if I may say, the down-tuning of requirements for CSRD, at least with less companies needing to report, there are still requirements for, let's say, compliance, reporting, and so on. And whether it's true for yourself, when it's true for yourself, it's also true for your suppliers, it's also true for your customers. And this is where all of that comes in essence, meaning whether we like it or not, climate change is happening. Climate change comes with also challenges in terms of compliance to keep a license to operate, risks, which I mentioned, energy prices, raw material access, you name it. And with that, the question is, what is it that you can do to help your customers go through those challenges and do so in a way, ideally, that is profitable for them. So it's just an overall trend and a dynamic that we see is accelerating and will, unfortunately or not, will actually continue to accelerate. And the question for companies is, what is it that they can do to help their customers actually alleviate those risks and also be more prepared for, let's say, the world in which we're entering. And in Schneider, we have a lot of things we're doing. We are big, let's say, promoters of electrification, decarbonized electricity generation, flexibility of the grid, and so on. And we have our program called Electricity 4.0. But I think this question that we've been working on at Schneider is true for any company out there. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense, and the lengths that Schneider go to, and the way you are leading the way in so many areas of sustainability is extraordinary when you look into it. But what I'd love is a bit of context. From our title here is when we say sustainability at scale. How do you personally define that?
Well, I love that term, because I think that usually when you look at sustainability overall, I think there is also a new market dynamic that is coming in. Meaning, you look 5 years ago, most, I would say, or just when I was starting to look into sustainability, a lot of it was around, consulting. You need to have consultants coming to help you figure out a plan and make, build your decarbonization strategy, make your SBTi commitments, etc., etc. And recently, we've just seen a boom of the offering out there in the market. And we've also went there, and we're also going there with SaaS offers, with a bunch of initiatives like the Sustainability School for partners, which we are building, and where we help to teach people what sustainability is, what it means for their business, and why they should do something about that. So overall, the point of sustainability at scale is to say, how do you reduce those bottlenecks that are, on one hand, limiting the capability to act, and that are creating, let's say, immobilism with regard to the climate urgency. So the way I personally see those is first understanding the science, understanding what are the actions that you can do at your level, but also what it means for you as a CEO, as a business leader, and how you can basically look at, let's say, this no longer just as a topic that is complicated, mystified, that requires only experts. What are the few things that you can start doing that help you get usually what we see, the first 30 to 40% of the actions to really act on your footprint. And here, technologies already exists. And the question is not so much about, let's say, what innovation you can basically bring, but rather what are the short-term actions that you can take, which are the ones that are the most profitable and you should start with, so that, let's say, you just shortcut and you move at a pace that is fast with the first actions until you figure out the others that maybe are more, let's say, cost intensive or complex to build. We all have, and I think this is true for every company across what I've explored in the market, actions that we can take that pair both profitability, speed, and that just makes your business more competitive out there in the market. And the key is to see how you can basically detect those and enable them fast enough. So the term at scale is basically also saying that the way we're approaching sustainability, as I said, you have a lot more of those tools out there, a lot more of that education that is available, so that companies don't need anymore, to invest in, high-ticket consulting services and so on. They can actually start that journey and look at it. So now what is important is really to make sure that you do so in a way that is, on one hand, intentional, and that you really look at how the actions that you're taking are actually actions that are enabling, on one hand, your business to be more lean, more efficient, more resilient also with regard to future risks, and also what is it that you can do that can help you serve your customer better, and also with both of these, actually, whichever way you look at it, you'll be also answering to the climate crisis that is coming. And you get also side benefits, which is, we know, for instance, that junior employees or, let's say, students, they want to look also for companies who are engaged in that space, etc. What I'm trying to say is that tools are now much more widely available. We also have our own in Schneider, which are in that sense. And you have business benefits to grasp if you actually now start to look at it intentionally. And I would finish this piece of my argument by saying that I think that now is really the time where the leaders of tomorrow will basically make it, or in a sense break it, because companies are already, so we see so many companies going out there and going hard on sustainability as a value driver, that I think in 3 or 5 years from now, basically this will be something that is much more commoditized, and where companies will have a harder time, if I may say, to make their space in there. So I'm an optimistic by nature, and I see a great opportunity to help businesses be more performant while answering the climate crisis.
I think opportunity is the key word there as you were wrapping that up, that if you are not doing it, if you're not one of the leaders in this particular space, you do risk being left behind in so many ways. But Sorouch, I'm going to give you an opportunity to blow the Schneider trumpet, if you will, because your sustainability programs are very well publicised. I'm sure many people will know a lot of the very good work that is done. But how have they scaled over time? I'd love to know how your previous answer translates into the actions you've taken. How have Schneider been scaling their programs over time?
So I think Schneider, obviously it's a pleasure to work at Schneider because it's a company that really takes sustainability into its DNA, and we've been again nominated this year as being the most sustainable company, by Time Magazine or by Corporate Knights. What we see, and we've been through that journey, and we might be, we have some, let's say, experience looking at it. We've been focusing really on looking at our own carbon footprint and looking at how we can reduce it. We've also been working with, the Zero Carbon Project, which is led by a colleague of mine, on decarbonizing our supply chain. And right now, one thing that actually I'm leading is really at looking at how do we enable any company that, let's say, big or small, but mostly companies that don't necessarily have the means to go for, let's say, a high-ticket consulting service, to start their journey. Okay, and by that, this is really what we mean by consulting or sustainability at scale. How do we bring those tools out there in a way that is as self-service as possible, so that we can really help companies, SMEs, but also larger companies, see the potential that having leaner, smarter operations, but also complement their own portfolio to bring it to their customers. Basically make their business leaner, more competitive, and in the end healthier, while having also a lower impact on the planet. And the way we do that is by nurturing journeys. And I think I kind of mentioned them quickly there. We really start by education. And by education, we don't mean to say we teach everything, but it's just really help businesses understand, again, one, what is climate change? What does it mean for my business? Me as a CEO of an SME, why should I look at it? And once I've decided actually to do something about it, what are the things I can start doing that makes sense for my business, the way it's modeled and the way my operations are running? What are also the things I can do for my customers? So these are things that we're doing, for instance, with the Sustainability School for Partners, which we've built and we've been rolling out. We have actually our first chapter that is coming in March. We're also working on solutions that are available to a much wider market. So we have also Zygo, which is our suite of solutions that we bring to the market to help them, really build a plan and a roadmap for the decarbonation that is, let's say, making sense for them, both, let's say, footprint-wise, meaning the CO2 footprint they have, but also financially, with their ROI calculations based on, and helping them prioritize those actions based on the ROI, the impact, and so on. We're also offering, let's say, smaller consulting offers that are much more affordable and really go after the energy and the energy efficiency of their operations. And all of that is part of our vision, which is Electricity 4.0, which is the more you have insights and data on what you do, the more you're able to take the right decisions that are fit for your business and focus on the actions that bring you the benefits shorter term with the right and that are as close as possible to your business needs, actually, so that it's not a stretch. And I don't think everyone needs to be anymore an expert on carbon to be able actually to take actions on their footprint and do so profitably, thanks to that, those tools, which some of them I explained, but also other that are out there in the market, and the vulgarization of the topic and the accessibility they give to that topic out there in the market. I hope I make sense.
Absolutely. And what you were saying there about the assistance for SMEs, for me, that is such a trending topic within sustainability at the moment. I was just at our Sustainability Live Net Zero event a few days ago in London, and that was always the subject that was getting brought up to me when I was crossing the networking floor. You'd have an SME leader come up and say, we're getting help here, we need more help here, we're having these demands put on us, we can't afford to do this, yet we know we need to. So for you, how crucial is it that what you were saying there about more of a self-service area, that sounds really exciting. How crucial for you are SMEs in this wider part of the jigsaw puzzle?
Very easy. You look at the scope, scope 1, 2, 3. So 1 being my operations, 2 the energy I consume, 3 being my value chain upstream, downstream. Long story short, 90% of the footprint of a company comes from its scope 3, meaning its customers or its suppliers, right? So basically from the cradle to the grave of services or its products. So tackling scope 3 is very important. And when you talk about scope 3, well, 95%, if not more, of the companies that are, looking, that are part of the scope 3 of most of the large companies out there are SMEs. So you cannot be serious about decarbonation without being intentional about addressing your scope 3, be it your suppliers, but also be it your customers and how you help them in their journey. So we need SMEs to go on board that journey. And as you might have said, SMEs, small and medium enterprise, don't always have the luxury to have a chief sustainability officer. Sometimes it's the CFO that is doing that on the side of his job. Sometimes, they don't even have someone looking at it. So the question is, how do we bring them the tools that enable to understand what are the risks? So the risks are very simply, you need to start reporting your own footprint. This is actually required by the CSRD or more and more in projects and bids and so on. The second thing is, you're going to have much more and increasingly scrutiny on your ESG rating. And right now you have large companies out there who are basically, I would say, downgrading, if not disqualifying, suppliers based on their ESG rating and if they don't have the correction plan to go there. So the topic is raising, let's say, in importance to stay, let's say, relevant and competitive out there. And as you said, we need to give them those tools so that first they understand it before it comes all of a sudden on their door through a product requirements, and they have to scramble after it, and it's a lot of pain and lots of money and resources. They can prepare to do so, and also while preparing to do so, because they've been there already, they can do that at the right pace, maximize their benefits, and also start positioning themselves as being, a more virtuous and a more long-term partner to buy from their customers. And we really believe in that view. And I'm not even mentioning the part where, actually you can think of new ways also to serve your customers, just looking at the way, from that journey, you can adapt your services and products to also help your customers solve some of those issues. Do I make sense?
Absolute perfect sense, always, sir. We are running out of time rapidly, so I am going to push you for a bit of advice, as it'd be definitely wrong of me to have a man of your experience opening the show and not ask for some of that. This is about organisational change and mindset, the culture and strategy there, about turning it into a competitive advantage. From your experience, how can people go about doing that? Because the culture behind sustainability is crucial. It isn't a bolt-on. It shouldn't work in a silo. How do you see that working? What advice would you give?
You're speaking to my heart, actually, Neil. I would say you can do very easily a parallel between sustainability, digital, AI. Okay, those are topics that are highly complex, but that are relevant to any business out there. And the question for a business is, what is it that I can do that is with regard to sustainability, but same thing with AI or digital or whatever, where I'm actually helping create value for my business, creating value for my customers. And those are the things to start from. And those are the things where we see that you can derive actually substantial reduction of impact. Let's say get into that learning curve and also start, differentiating yourself in the market. So it's stop looking at sustainability, as you say, just as a, box checking or let's say a topic that is completely just meant for the experts. You need some experts, of course, but there is plenty of material there also to get your teams to start, learning about the topic. But from there, the question is, how do you make that something that is making sense for your business and your business model, right? If your company is not at all, let's say consuming water, okay, there is no sense for you to start looking at that as something, to look into it. What are the things that your company is doing? What are the risks that are actually, important to your company for the next 5 to 10 years? And what are the risks that your customers are facing? And how, by looking at these, can you craft a plan where you help mitigate those risks that are related to what we just discussed? Also, same for your clients. And from there, you're just entering a different perspective where you're not seeing sustainability as, let's say, an issue or let's say, really something that you need to do because people are telling you to do it, but really looking at it as something that is enabling and allowing your business to perform better, be more future ready, but also serve your customers better. And that's really something that I'm a strong believer of.
Yeah, it's an entire mindset change of going from it's something we need to do to it being something that's a watermark through the whole business. We are right up on time.
What I would add here.
Sorry, do carry on.
I would just add one thing. Which is that the other beauty of sustainability is that it's a topic that is highly, if I may say, cohesive. You have a lot of people who want to work in that. So the question for those leaders out there is, people want to do something about it. So how do you empower your teams to go there? And you'll probably find, a lot of willingness within your company to start looking at that and getting those proposals out there for you to review. So that's also the beauty of the topic. And I want to highlight it because this might, also help, with kickstarting all of that and start, getting those first few successes that allow the change of mindset overall the organization.
Absolutely. And one final question, because we are right up on time, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm allowed to. I'm the host. That's part of my job. I'd love to know an example you have. It could be within Schneider. It could be with someone, a partner, somewhere else you've seen in the industry, totally up to you, where you've seen an organisation making that change that has excited you, that you've thought, brilliant, that's how you do it. From your experience, which examples excited you the most?
Well, I mean, of course, I think Schneider is one of the companies that really takes sustainability as part of its DNA. You look at our Electricity 4.0 program, where we really say how, electrification, digitalization, data availability really allows you to manage your assets more efficiently, reduce your costs, reduce your footprint also, and so on. But if we talk about other companies, let's say, for instance, one company that I'm quite admirative of the work is, and I'll take that example because it has nothing to do with Schneider, is, the sports equipment and sportswear manufacturer Decathlon, and how they actually managed to build, a circular value proposition. And where now, if you go to the website of Decathlon in Singapore, for those who are in Singapore, you can actually start buying stuff which is secondhand, and where there has been, the whole quality and checks done by the company. This is an example of a sustainable practice, which is, here circularity, that is taken into that sports equipment by that company. There are, many more. So you look also into, let's say, the consulting side of things. I think that there is a company that I like to follow. It's BCG, not only because, they're firsthand and they have all those insights that they share regularly, but they've also worked on going beyond just reporting to also much more advisory, giving you CSOs on demand, helping you also, and building those alliances where they're able to provide a much wider service to accompany clients through the journey. So those innovations are happening everywhere. If you just open your eyes and you start looking at, let's say, what new offerings are coming out there, you might see, not for everything, but you might pick examples where actually there is a sustainability value proposition out there, whether it's obvious or not. And I think that's the beauty of it. We can really, through that mindset, de-silo the topic and really bring it out there in a much more, let's say, casual and business-friendly way.
Well, that's two fantastic examples, and Sorouch, if you find them like good examples, they're definitely further reading for everyone watching. We are right up on time, I'm afraid, so you've been so generous with your time this morning, Sorouch. Thank you so much for joining us here at Sustainability Live Singapore.
Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome.